got it, yeah, yeah, you got it like that. When you got it like that. Nothing gonna hold you back when you got it like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin. Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Jeez, don't scare me like that.
You scared me.
You just spewed all over the carpet.
Oh,
My goodness. How the heck are you guys?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good.
How are you,
So,
Steve?
Steve,
Hey,
I
Wheezy. How you
Hey,
doing?
Steve.
saw your reaction
Wheezy.
when you heard the video of you and Shane.
That was pretty cute.
It's called animalistic lust.
I
Yes.
see that. It was pretty lustful.
It's like almost every week for you. Hey,
I'm
so
just a bundle of love.
yeah. When are you getting rid of that rat on your face?
Really?
When I have ulterior motivations, I'll just say that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm representing Michigan a little bit tonight. Flying
That's a pretty shirt.
yeah.
I
So
like that.
with Mike Cotter, who's in Saudi Arabia right now, flying and doing whatever else. I have no idea, but
That's pretty good.
Getting his cameras confiscated.
right, his buddy had his cameras all taken away.
Hey, let's all go fly in North Korea. What? They're stealing my cameras. I can't film.
Those
So-
poor people in North Korea can't do anything.
So hey, we are taking the show to Michigan tonight. So let's introduce our guest who is in Michigan, Mr. Shane Wyman. Hey, dude.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good.
Shane.
Didn't we see you a couple weeks ago?
I made an emergency appearance, yeah.
Yeah, that was the night we were doing our testing, and it was like you just decided you wanted to come in, and then you said, "Hey, I'd be a guest." So
You guys were just looking for a Shane on a Tuesday night. I know what you were doing. Oh.
no. So, all right. So you've got to work tonight.
I do have to work tonight. Yes, I do.
We have a little bit of time with you at least.
Yes, plenty of time.
Okay. All right. So first off, I want to say thanks to everybody that's joined us tonight. I see Wendy, the Explorer. Hey, girl.
Wendy.
Randy Milstead, Bill H., Justin Weaver. My husband Eric is in here. Linda Anderson and John Wayne. Travis DuPont. I heard you tried cheese curds again, Travis.
He did?
Yeah, I guess his wife made some today, and
What was the result?
I guess he still doesn't like them, but obviously his wife does because if she tried making them. So I'm assuming she tried making deep fried.
Wow.
And Sean Marvin's in the house. Hey, welcome, sir. He's one of our students and Eric's flight instructor. And Copay Jade. And let's see, who else? Who else? Got anybody else that I missed?
Yeah, I see Patricia J.
We got, my mom is in the house.
Yes, don't
Hey,
forget
Mom.
her. Dust in the wind.
We've got somebody new, a Ray Morgan. Hey, welcome. Hand pinky waving.
Adventureland.
Mad Sloper. Wahala Wings. Welcome. Sorry if I just chopped that up. Susan Ray's in the house. Welcome, Susan.
Did you say Justin?
Yep, Justin's in the house. So yeah, thank you guys all for joining us. So we're going to talk to Shane Wyman and learn about him and where he went to school. So Shane, tell us back history on you. Go back a little bit and things you've done in the past.
Starting back from the beginning, I've always been an avid aviation freak and always wanted to fly. So in my younger years, in my late teens, early 20s, I had the bright idea of wanting to fly, but because it was very expensive and I wasn't making a whole lot of money. So I'm like, hey, I'll build an airplane and then I can take my instruction in that. So I started looking around and joined the local EAA chapter here in Michigan and started going to that. And I really like the RVs. I don't know if anybody's well versed in kit planes, but an RV6 is what I liked. It was a side by side, high performance, but those were a little expensive. And I stumbled on Mustang Aeronautics that are located here in Michigan, in Troy, Michigan. And they made a Mustang 2, which is basically the same thing as an RV6, but it was more affordable. And being local, they had some kits. So I bought the kit and started building an airplane. And things were going really good. I started an apprenticeship. So, yeah, every second I had, I was working on that plane after work. And now I had it on the tail. I had the tail cone put together. Center section was all done. So basically, it was ready to go on landing gear. And I got a job. Well, throughout this process, I graduated from my apprenticeship, turned out, and got a job working at Ford. And went from having all kinds of time and not enough money to work on this thing to having more money and no time because we work 7 days a week. And in the course of that time also, I got married, had a kid, and 2 years go by and I didn't even go in the shop anymore. So that was that. I figured I'll sell what I have and maybe start over again someday. And that someday never really came. But also in the course of that time, I did start, after I got a job at Ford, I started taking private pilot flying lessons.
Oh,
So I pretty much had everything done except for I needed my night flying and my check ride. But I had all my solo cross countries, everything done. I think I had around 38, 39 hours of solo time. So
nice. So you did sell that plane then?
I sold that plane and then had a couple more kids and thought I would try building something else later on in life, and it just never came. So for the last 20 years, I went to Oshkosh every year for I think 8 years in a row, stayed for the whole week, and loved every second of it. Nothing for 20 years. So, and
yeah, last year was our first year at Oshkosh. It was pretty amazing.
yeah, it is incredible, and I can't wait to go back. Maybe this year will be it, I hope. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, hopefully. Don't forget the week before, then you can come over by our place and come to our fly-in in northern Wisconsin.
I would love to, but the problem I have is with my occupation is we don't get a ton of time off.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest issue.
All right.
Otherwise, I'd be traveling with Steve around the country with all these crazy fly-ins.
Going slow this year, though.
That's true. But yeah.
All right.
So going on further, I guess, my job, I'm work for Chrysler at an engine plant, and I'm a maintenance man and cover breakdowns. So I get a lot of free time because they don't want us doing anything. If I'm working, then something's bad's happening. We're losing money. So they like to see it when we're sitting on our ass. So I got plenty of ass time and stumbled upon a Tucker Gott video of him flying above a cornfield, dragging his feet through the tassels. And I seen that, and that was it. I was on the horn right away. Within a week, I talked to Mike Cotter with Fly My PPG, and I saw some Kyle O videos, and he was my second phone call. So talking to them, and yeah, that was all she wrote. So I think it took a week to schedule my training after that.
Everybody always gets inspired by Tucker Gott videos.
But it wasn't.
I was inspired by that one where David Hasselhoff flies a paramotor in Baywatch. I'm like, I'm hooked. I got to have it. I got to rescue people.
Nice.
Yeah, I missed that episode.
So what year did you go to Kyle's?
I went to Kyle's in April of 21. So
April.
Yep. So that went really good, but I only got one flight, and that was kind of a killer for me. And it was It was all due to weather. Got there on a Thursday. We trained Friday morning, and we had a lot of wind. And my first half hour was horrible as far as kiting goes. And he would be yelling, and I don't know what happened, but something just clicked. And I really started picking it up quick and doing really good at it. And yeah, he said if the conditions would have presented itself, he goes, I would have flown that night. So Saturday came along, and it was really windy, couldn't get up. So we just kited. And then Sunday came along, and I actually got my flight in. And it was crazy, but I got up, and it was, I don't know how my heart didn't explode. I had to jump over a ditch on takeoff because I was thinking about aborting. I lost my comms with Kyle as soon as the wing came up. And I'm kiting, and a ditch is coming at me. And I'm like, oh, I was going to abort. What do I do? And I said, the hell with it, and just nailed full throttle. And I jumped the ditch, landed, took 2 more steps, and off the ground I went. So I'm just hanging there, oscillating back and forth, just petrified. And my heart's thumping, and I couldn't get in the seat. So I knew I had to get altitude. So I'm looking up at the wing, staring at it, thinking, is this thing going to.
Was that the Flow, or was that a different wing that you were flying on your first?
Universal, Dudeck Universal 1.1, 28 meter. Yeah. So I get some altitude. I'm like, I'm going to have to let go of a brake to get my seat under me. So I got high enough to where I felt safe, and I'm still oscillating and scared out of my mind. So just because I didn't trust the wing, but having the aviation background with flying airplanes, I thought I'd be good, but man, it was a totally different experience. So I finally stowed a brake toggle on my, he had a right hand throttle, which I was comfortable with. And I stowed my left brake, put my seat down, grabbed the brake toggle again. And I just gained more altitude because I knew the more altitude I would gain, the safer everything was. So then it was just a matter of calming down. And once my heart rate got down, I flew around for 45 minutes and things went great. And then I came in for a landing, still didn't have any comms. And yeah, I tried killing the motor at about 100 feet like I was supposed to, and the motor wouldn't shut off. So I made a couple go-arounds, and I could hear Kyle, but he couldn't hear me by this time. So he just said, grab the throttle grip, put my fingers behind the throttle lever so I couldn't inadvertently bump it, and came in, flared, and I kind of tipped over sideways, but it was uneventful. And that was the end of that. We never got another weather window for me to fly. But I felt comfortable. I was really good at kiting. So I was comfortable going home and continuing my training. So I was able to pick up I did order a paramotor before I got to see Kyle, because my whole plan was to hopefully have my gear there, and then I could, not the wing, of course, but I knew I was going to need a motor. So I got the motor he recommended, which are, with my size, there was only one I could get. So and it's ended up with a MacFly with a Moster 185. So that actually came the night I was leaving. So him and I drove towards Matt Minier's house at 11 o'clock at night. And we met each other halfway and picked it up, and back to Michigan I went. And then about 3 weeks later.
It was a shady deal. It was just cash underneath the table, too.
No, it wasn't like that. It was good.
That's all right. That sounds like
he's
me.
like, hey,
we met him on the side of the road.
You want a paramotor? Which one? I got all sorts. We need the cash up front.
No, so that went all good. It was all good. And 3 weeks after I got home, Kyle said, hey, your wing showed up. And I didn't really know what I was getting. So I'm like, well, just fly it for me, make sure it's safe. So he did, and packaged it back up and sent it to me. And I kited it when it got here a few times, and broke the motor in. And I had about a 6 mile an hour day for my first flight. And of course, all my friends are here because everybody's excited to see this new adventure that I'm going on. And did a reverse kite, brought it up nice, turned around, and took off and things went good. But I really only having one flight, didn't know much about it. So this wing that I got, it's 26 meter, which is the largest. It's a Flow Cosmos powered. It's really fast, and Steve can vouch for that.
Well, you're loaded on it, right?
Yeah, I'm very heavily loaded on it.
Are you overloaded or just loaded?
I'm not overloaded. It says the intermediate category is up to 140, and I'm probably about 145 to 148, and its maximum capacity is 160. So I'm within there, but according to the manual, anything over 140 is advanced stage, whatever that means. But it was a real struggle at first because this damn thing was so fast, and I just couldn't grasp the ground rush and the speed coming into land. So every landing was either on my butt or I think I tipped over a couple times, but still nothing to get me hurt. So I think it was my 5th flight. Yes, it was, which isn't much. And we had some wind that day. So, I watch a lot of Kyle O videos and get a lot of crazy ideas. And Kyle is always coming in when he's flying in windy conditions, and he'll give it some brake and give it some throttle and just come in with a 1 or 2 stepper. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do that. So I came in and pulled some brake, gave it some throttle, and I think what I ended up doing, I thought maybe I hit rotor, but I think I didn't. I think I chopped the throttle, and then she pointed down at the earth, and I started picking up speed, and I nailed the throttle and plowed myself into the ground and broke a prop. So this happened about 5 days before I'm going on vacation, and I was excited to take my paramotor on this vacation and fly. So I'm still sitting there in the dirt. I grabbed my phone and called Kyle. Said, man, I broke my prop. I need one ASAP. So he got me one before I left for vacation, and everything was good. So,
Nice.
yeah. And that leads me to the next set of events that screwed my head up. So I took this paramotor on vacation, and I met a couple flyers up where we were going, and we were talking the first night I was up there with them and having a couple beers at a local bar there, and Mike Cotter shows up. So, and I knew Mike, and I wanted to train there, but ended up going to Kyle's instead. But so I'm really excited, and we're talking for about an hour, and I'm showing videos of, I had my 6th or 7th flight was it, and I'm up here on vacation, of course, with him, and he invites me. He's like, hey, I'm going flying in the morning. Would you like to join me? So I'm all excited. I'm like, heck yeah. He goes, we'll be here about 5:30, and we'll take off about 6 in the morning. So I get up the next morning, get to where we were taking off from, and yeah, it's kind of a tight LZ, and it's definitely not beginner friendly, and I'm only 7 flights in. So, and it's hot as hell. It was probably 85 degrees, 100% humidity, and dead calm. And there's dew on the grass. So he sets me up first, and I've never had any trouble taking off. Everything's always went really good. And I got set up and took off, and everything went great. For a nil wind, hot, high humidity takeoff, I could say it was almost perfect. So I get in the air, and I'm waiting for Mike to get his gear set up and join me. And I start pulling my right brake, and thinking, this thing's pulling really hard. So I look at my riser, and I tied in 180 degrees out. So I had a riser twist, and the brake pulled really hard. So then I start panicking because, I'm still new, and I know it's not right. So I'm like, I got to get on the ground and fix this. So I think I had to do about 6 go-arounds before I finally figured, I'm like, okay, I've got to land. So I was coming in so hot and fast. I'm like, I'm not even going to try to run it out. I just picked my legs up and just came in, plowed myself into the ground. And I skidded for probably 30 feet on my butt. So it was rough. But I told him what happened. So we set my wing up again. And by this time, now my wing's totally soaked because it overflew me. So instead of the bottom just being wet, the whole wing was soaked, which didn't really bother me. So we get set up again, and I start the motor, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm still a little shaken up because it was a pretty hard, fast landing. So I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. So I hit the kill switch. I did this to Mike, and he's wondering what's going on, and he walks over, and I'm like, man, I just can't do it. I said, I'm just not feeling it. I don't want to do it. So he starts talking me into it. He's like, man, you got this and set up. And I'm an old dirt bike rider. And so, you fall off the bike, you get back on and you go. So I'm like, you know what? I can do it. So set back up, did another take, brought the wing up. Everything came up good. I'm running really hard because now my wing's totally soaked and I'm hot. Everything's hot. And I'm eventually got off the ground and I'm on climb out. And all of a sudden, I hear something go through my prop. So I immediately hit the kill switch. I'm about 50 feet off the ground. And we did a pre-flight briefing for outs. And, he said if something happens, I've got to make a right-hand turn to land in this strip over here that's clear. So that's all going through my mind. And I executed it perfectly, except for, I'm at wide open throttle on climb out, and I go from wide open throttle to killing the motor, and everybody knows what happens. The wings surge forward as I'm making a turn, and it felt like I was pointing straight at the ground. So I didn't have much time to react, but I came in. I knew I needed speed, so I kept my hands up, and I don't know what happened after that. Everything was kind of a blur. I don't know if I bounced off the ground, but I ended up in a sandy spot, and my wing overflew me and landed in a tree. But I was okay, but shaking up again because there's 2 hard landings in a row. And I basically only had a 30-second flight before I broke 2 different props. So
dang.
that one left a mark. And it really set me back for the whole rest of the summer, really, because once I got my gear and everything fixed, I was just, I don't know, I was screwed in the head really bad. So that was tough. I mean, I would go to the field knowing it's a perfect night to fly, and my stomach during the day would just turn in knots thinking, oh, shit, I got to go flying. Oops, sorry. So, yeah, so I'd go to the field and get everything laid out, and I pack everything up and not even fly. And then the one day there was a gentleman at the field that's a local flyer, and he's like, well, just put your motor on and just kite with your motor and just do some power taxis. So I did that, and I just couldn't get the gumption to take off.
Really? Even that didn't kind of ease it for you? Because that's usually my go-to advice.
Yep, that did not do it. I didn't.
And I remember this time period with us because you and I started this together.
Yeah. So
we were both on a struggle bus.
But I don't know. I can't. The only thing I can explain the feeling that I would get is if I'm at a dirt bike track and here's a big triple or a big jump that I know I can do, but you just get that gut churning in your churning and you back out of it because you're just mentally screwed in the head. And I couldn't get past it. So that's the feeling that I would get.
We're still mentally screwed in the head, though.
Yeah, but I'm going the other way now, and I'm to the dangerous point, I think, in my flying career where I think I can do anything, and I want to start doing some like wingovers. I want to do wingovers so bad, but all I keep hearing is all these Chris Santa Croce. I think I watched one of his videos about wingovers just recently, and he's talking about all the bad things that can happen if you don't do it correctly. And I don't have anybody with enough experience to do this type of flying around me. So, and then Trevor just posted, he's flying that new wing of his, and looked like he was about 200 feet in the air, and his wing tip collapsed, going into a wing over at low altitude. Yeah,
so said outside brake pressure. But speaking of Trevor, he's watching. If you want to do advanced paramotor training, you can check out Backcountry PPG or Backyard or whatever he's calling it with Trevor Steele. He offers advanced paramotor training.
Whatever he's calling it.
He's paid us a lot of money to say this, so give him a shout.
I'd love to go flying with Trevor, and it'll happen someday. And I definitely like to do some intermediate training with somebody. And so I don't know. At this point in my flying career, I don't
Shane,
know.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have any plans for any future adventures like cross countries or anything like that? Camping or
Well, that's a good thing you brought up. So my flying, I can get maybe squeeze 2 hours out of my 12-liter fuel tank. And some of my longest flights were right around the 60-mile mark. So one of the fellows that I fly with when I go on vacation, Terry Williamson, you guys might know him, but he's got I think a 17-liter tank, and he flies a Mac Fly also. So he's like, "Hey, dude, just get a bigger tank." So I did. And I'm yet to install it, but I do have a 17-liter fuel tank, and I want to start doing some longer cross countries for sure. There's another local flyer that I fly with, kind of. He's about 30 miles away, and he has his own LZ, and he flies a trike. But I knew I could make it to his place, but I'd have to fuel up to make it back. But I think I'll have the endurance with this new tank where I can go fly to his LZ and make it back to mine. So that's definitely in the works as soon as the weather breaks.
that sounds fun.
Yes. And I can't wait to start taking some long flights. And but being heavy on my wing, I think my fuel consumption is pretty high.
How do you navigate? Do you navigate by sight, or do you have some kind of apps that you use, or what?
Well, I was going to try using AvAir to navigate, but I haven't used it yet in the air. So everything I've done, I just know the area.
Yeah.
And we'll just fly around. But I would love to start doing some longer flights where I need to navigate and learn how to use that app. I think would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
How many flights are you at now, Shane?
I'm right around the 80 mark.
80. Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Dang, I thought you would have been more. You're about the same as me.
Yep. As soon as
No,
it
I
gets-
guess I take trips though, so my count goes way up when I do the trips.
Yeah, when the weather breaks, with me being on midnights, being able to fly morning and at night, I'll really start adding to that, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So where do you plan on going next?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what's going to happen this year. There's a lot going on financially. I have a daughter getting married in September, so I'd sure love to go to Bad Apples again.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to be in the works or not. I'm more leaning towards not. So probably maybe just some local fly-ins here in Michigan. I'd love to do the Torchport, but that's we go to Silver Lake Sand Dunes here in Michigan, and it's something I've done my whole life with my family, and every
How far
holiday.
away is that?
About 3.5 hours.
Oh, no, but I mean, how far away would that be where you're going to be from where we would be at Torchport?
Oh, you know what? Actually, probably 2 hours tops.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
maybe we might have to come take a drive down by you.
Yeah, that
And that's
works.
the sand dunes?
Yes.
I've always wanted to go there, so that might be in the making then.
Yeah, my grandpa bought some property there in 1980, and it's the only place we go on vacation since I was a kid. And it's still the only place we go, really.
So who do we have in here? We got Chem Dry of Monroe Lucas.
Yeah, that's my buddy Toby. How you doing, Toby?
So he's in here. I've known
Nice.
Shane for a long time, and he's a hell of a guy. Glad to see he's finally up in the
Got,
air.
got some spinny wheel action coming up.
Yeah.
You
So
got it. What are we giving away?
I got
Come on, Vanna, show us.
some new
Vanna.
stickers.
Are they
New
scratch and
stickers.
sniff?
Just
They
want to
smell like
fly.
graham crackers and Dale Funk. Yeah.
And Ron Tran came through, and we got one Lone Star paramotors. So I've got 3 of our stickers and 1 of those. So I'll give you a choice. Whoever wants to go first as a winner gets choice. So
Let's
I
see.
sent out a couple more things. Justin, I think I sent out your sticker. I sent you one of these. Just want to fly. Got in the mail today. Trying to think who else. I got a shirt out today from last week. Just kind of a little slow at getting to the post office. They're starting to get to know my name.
Dentista.
Oh, sorry.
Patient. Nightbot?
Nightbot
Nightbot
one?
gonna get it? Oh.
Nightbot.
Stupid Nightbot.
No.
No.
Get Ray Morgan.
Ray Morgan, do you want a Lone Star Paramotor sticker or do you want one of our Just Want to Fly to help support us? Let us know in the chat, sir.
You want to do another one, or is that good?
Sure. Let's do one more.
All right, let's grease it up. Sponsor of this wheel is Trevor Steele with Backcountry PPG.
Yay.
He's in the chat. He's saying hi, so I'm gonna make it sound like he's a sponsor because
I'm waiting
That's what I
for Trevor to get some stickers to us so we can give some away.
Trevor, we need
Ray
your
Ray
shirt.
Morgan says he wants a just one.
Actually,
fly.
I would just keep
sticker.
them. I wouldn't even give them away.
Thank
Ray
you.
Morgan's going to get a second one.
Oh
Grease
my
is good
goodness.
enough.
Are you kidding?
Maybe.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Oh, no.
oh my
we gotta
gosh,
do
you
it
got a second
again.
one.
No.
Ray, do you want the Lone Star or do you want to pass on it?
Doing that again.
Or you can put one on your helmet and one on your refrigerator or whatever. Spin the wheel again, and Trevor says he'll send a shirt to whoever wins. Oh, thanks, Trevor.
Sean Simons.
Come on, Aaron. Aaron. Aaron, come on.
Oh, baby
Oh,
Aaron.
oh,
Aaron.
oh.
Sean Simon. All right, Sean, if you're still in the chat, let me know which one you want. I Just Want to Fly or a Lone Star Paramotor. I know he was in here earlier, so. All right, take a break for a second. All right, we're going to take one quick little break and see you shortly. Do you want to experience flight in its purest and most exciting form? If so, paramotoring is for you. Your flying adventures begin here at Cache Valley Paramotor, where they will train you on everything you need to know about the safest and most affordable form of flight. All of their instructors are USPPA certified with over 30 years combined experience flying in locations all over North America. They're also dealers for all of the top-of-the-line paragliding and paramotor equipment and can cater to your every need. Their instructors are well-versed in both paragliding and paramotor skill set. This, along with the unique training environment that Cache Valley provides, allows them to teach students the necessary skills to fly in diverse locations all over the world. Reach out to Cache Valley Paramotor at cachevalleyppg.com. All right, just had to take a little quick break and listen to one of our sponsors. And we lost Steve to probably a beer break.
Yeah.
Shane, do any of your family members, are any of them interested in flying?
My grandpa was a pilot
Yeah.
back in the day, and my dad was a helicopter pilot in the Army.
Yeah.
So we've got a little roots in aviation, I guess. But yeah, that's just something I've always wanted to do, and I love it. And
What about your kids?
my kids are really into dirt bikes at the moment, and I
Okay.
couldn't be happier than that, because that's exactly how I was when I was their age. But I still liked the aviation then. I always thought I wanted an ultralight or something, but it never panned out. It was just aviation was always hard for me because I suck at saving money, and it's not like, you get a dirt bike or something, you can go to the dealer and they'll give you a loan. I'm really good at making payments, but I suck at saving money, so I can never save the money to just buy something. Like even with when I built that airplane kit, I would buy it in stages, so they would break it down into affordable prices instead of one lump sum. My one lump sums have always killed me. So, yeah, like I say, when then this come along, this isn't, cost wise, it's no more than buying a new dirt bike or a 4-wheeler. So
Yeah.
it was, it worked out well. And for the flying that I wanted to do, I mean, even in the airplane days or ultralight days, I got to have a pretty decent sized strip. And, have to have a hangar. And, I just like flying locally anyway and flying low. And in an airplane, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
And, I was even looking into back in the day in my early years before I got the Mustang to build, I was looking at gyrocopters. So, and I actually took a couple flights. I found a local guy that was selling the RAF 2000s at the time. So I was really close to diving into them, but one of his students actually had a mishap and died. And then like a month later, I saw he crashed himself, the instructor, taken off from the airport. So that kind of turned me away from that. So this actually, like I said, when I saw Tucker Gott dragging his feet through a cornfield, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly low and just stay local, and I could legally do that with the paramotor.
Yeah.
So, I see there's a lot of people with a lot of experience here on the chat. So I'd like to talk wings for a minute because I don't know anything about them. What am I missing out by not having flown anything else but my flow? I know my flow is stupid fast. I fly with a kid that just bought a Scirocco 2, and he's middle to the high on the weight range of that. And everything I've read about that wing is they're very fast, and he can trim out, and I'll be trimmed in, keeping up with him. So that's how fast my wing is.
I'm going to put the chat invite out there. So if anybody wants to come in and instead of typing to you, I mean, that would be cool if we could get
absolutely
people to come in and talk about equipment.
So Shane, what you need to do is you need to come down to Nebraska, because I've got access to like every BGD and dudek wing out there, and then we could just go have a fun time.
All right. While we're waiting for somebody to come on,
that's my goal this year,
Trevor,
is
you
to
can
actually go and
You're
try a
putting
whole bunch of different wings. Not like I'm not going to go launch a warp or something, but I've just never really tried them. I bought my second wing, and it's the same freaking wing I've been flying, just a different size.
Don't get me wrong. I love the wing that I got, but while we're waiting for someone to come on, let's rewind. And I got spread a little dirt on Hot Buttered Steve.
Oh,
So here we are. This was last spring, and him and I talked all last winter, even did a couple Zoom calls together and had a few beers. So I'm really excited to meet this guy, right? So I'm on my way to Bad Apples, and we're both really excited to get down there and finally meet each other and hang out. And something about me is, I guess you wouldn't know it from this, but I do not like talking to people that I don't know. I really struggle with it. So I'm coming down there by myself and talking to
appear that way.
well, I'm talking to Steve the whole time. So I drove through the night. I think I left at 6 or 7 at night, and I got to Bad Apples at 6 in the morning. And Steve was going to wake up and come get me. So I parked kind of off. So I get there at 6 in the morning. I try sleeping in the truck, and I hear these paramotors flying around. So I'm all excited. So I'm like, I can't take it anymore. So I drive in, and I knew what Steve drove from watching his videos. So I find his truck in his tent, and I went over there and basically jumped on top of his tent and like, Steve, what are you doing? Give him a real rude awakening. So he wakes up, and I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, hey, I'm like, where's, because I told him to save me a spot.
That was the most action I've seen in a while, to be honest.
I'm like, hey, where's my spot? You got one? He goes, well, I think you can go around the back down there, smoking spots. I'm like, you son of a bitch. I'm like, you're going to put me away from somebody. Couldn't wait to hang out with you and camp next to you. And then I've got to go 200 feet down the line next to who knows what. I was pissed.
I literally parked in their access area. I pulled into Bad Apples, and everybody was like already in place, and there's like an access road you're not supposed to park. And I basically was like, screw it, this is mine. I'll move if someone tells me to.
Yeah, so I was really pissed, Steve, because I was really looking forward to camping next to you and hanging out. And I had to go out of my comfort zone by myself where I didn't know anybody in camp. But luckily, Blake Davis, I think he's from the Atlanta area, and he's an instructor, shows up with his crew. And, man, I couldn't have had a better time. And then Nick Griffith and Nick Fazekas were camping right next to me, and I ended up meeting them, and I had a great time, and it was perfect. But this going back to wings, Blake Davis shows up. He's an instructor, and flies. Or he has all dudek stuff. I don't know how many wings he brought. I bet you he had at least 20 wings, and he just threw them on a pile. And he's like, "You guys, it's free for all. Grab what you want." He had all the new stuff. He said, "Take it, enjoy it." But I think I showed up at Bad Apples with about 16 flights under my belt. So I wasn't thinking about touching anything other than my own equipment. And I was still a little on the edge there. So, but I missed out on a great opportunity to have my pick of anything that Dudek makes to fly. So,
You were only at flight 16 there?
yeah, because don't you remember my 21st flight, we celebrated and had a beer.
Man,
And I had that, and I did that with Jade and Deweese around their fire.
that's crazy because like freaking Shane at Bad Apple. So like when I set up and I'm getting ready, maybe I'm not so much this way anymore, but back then, take me a half an hour to get ready, prep myself or whatever. And we had a gust front come through. We were trying to launch, and then we're looking at radar, and experienced people were like, "Dude, you're not going to want to go right now." And so we like cut it off, but it blew past, and I was just going to settle down and party for the evening. And I saw Shane take off. And I have never grabbed my gear so fast in my life and launch it to chase him down because I was like, crap. Like, I literally like went out there in 5 minutes and freaking launched trying to catch up with him. But he's so heavily loaded, I had no chance of keeping up, even like trimmed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you move and groove on your wing.
Yeah.
I told you would like being a little bit loaded, even if it was difficult at the beginning, because even though landings are hard, it's always that forward speed that messes with you. It's like, how the heck am I going to stop at like a walking speed? But it just works if you trust your motions and your movement and realize, hey, at the end, when you got them buried, that's going to stall your wing. It's going to set you down. It just seems to work.
Yeah. But yeah, that was such a great time, a great experience. And man, can't wait to go back. That's for sure. But I met a lot of great people.
I know.
Really.
Bad Apples was fun the last 2 years we went. We got to meet a lot of people. So,
And just to get down south, coming from this nasty north
yes.
spring, yeah.
Well, last year was my first year, and it was a lot of fun.
Yep. But did Trevor end up getting on so we could talk?
He
wings?
said he was having
He's fixing his
technical-
audio problems.
He's having some technical issues.
I was going to
Trevor,
say,
okay, he's got it.
you had no problem talking to new people.
I don't like it though. I hate it.
Yeah, but you had so much
Like
help from like
matter.
Justin Fox and people like when you were working with them. Because like,
Travis. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say like I know a whole bunch of people, so I grabbed Shane and I was like, Shane, this is Justin, this is this person, this is Parajet, this is who, and then they ended up helping him out and switching out stuff. And
Oh yeah.
Okay, now is it working? That is the question.
Yeah.
it is working.
Oh, it's
Hey,
working.
Trevor.
That's so good. Hello.
Hello,
Yes.
Trevor.
Talk wings to us.
Yes.
Talk wings. What
What
do you
am I
want to
missing
talk?
out on by only flying one wing, which I absolutely love, by the way? Shout out
Honestly,
to Flo.
Shane, you're not going to like my answer.
Okay.
You're not going to like my answer. Don't go down the path of wing wandering, questioning, thinking maybe something else is better.
I'm fine with that because, like I said, I love my wing. I know my wing, and I trust my wing. So
The reason why I say that is because it is a very expensive hobby if you do that. And also you'll start nitpicking and questioning every little tiny thing, and all of a sudden then you have like 17 wings.
okay,
You got
what
the
about
money.
this? Now, seeing that I got what I think is a very fast wing, would I benefit of going backwards on a wing and going to a more of an A-type wing just for some different
The only reason I would probably recommend switching wings at this stage, because you're still very, very new. The only reason I'd recommend switching wings at this stage is if your current wing is making flying difficult for you.
No, not at
Like
all.
if launching is hard, if landing is hard, if flying is difficult for you to do with that wing, then switch. But if it's not, if you are succeeding in the sport of paramotoring right now, stick with it.
Okay.
Because when you switch, then you'll have to learn the techniques or the differences or the nuances of a new wing, which you'll absolutely want to do in like 30 hours, but also like fly your wing until it's just like really boring to you. Like, don't think that you need a different wing to achieve all the things that you want to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I have a really good wing to do what I want to do. I want to learn wing overs so bad. It's like me riding a dirt bike and wanting to learn to whip, which I was never able to do. But I think that would be a good thing to learn.
How many hours are you at?
I'm at 58 hours on my motor with 80 flights.
58 hours. So somewhere between 50 and 70, I think it's okay to start getting into wing overs.
But
that's usually when I start to introduce that to pilots. Prior to that, there's just not enough experience under a canopy, under the paraglider to like know what the heck's going on.
I can agree with that. And like I said, I watched a Chris Santa Croce video, and he's talking about wing overs and says, if you don't do it right, you can get a half a collapse and go into a spiral. And then 2 days ago, I see your video, and I'm like, geez, oh, Pete, I don't want anything to do with these now. So how do you gradually transition into doing it? And then some of the video, well, Chris's video points out that the light wing overs are actually some of the more dangerous ones. If the bigger you go, the safer it is. This is kind of what I was getting.
No. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that. The thing with wing overs, here's where wing overs gets dangerous. Wing overs get dangerous if you don't understand how to burn off energy and how to use energy. If you know how to burn off energy, there's two different ways to do it, and I can explain both ways. If you know how to burn off the energy, then the next step is learning how to build and use the energy. And if you use the energy improperly, aka you like don't build enough energy going into a wing over, you enter wrong or whatever, then you can find yourself in trouble. But on new wings, like beginner-ish wings, like you'd have to like really screw up to get yourself into a pickle. The bigger thing is knowing how to exit and burn off this energy that you just built. And there's two ways. Do you want to know the two ways?
Yes, absolutely.
The first way is to exit straight up. If you are coming out of the wing over, you exit straight up. Yeah, because hypothetically, you can't exit straight up enough to stall. Now, what you can do is you'd have to be on a really advanced wing to like even get near that level. You're going to think you are, but you're nowhere near stall level. The bigger thing is knowing to catch it as it goes forward. So that's usually not the best way. The better way is to exit into a slow turn.
Right.
So, you exit the wing over and then you bank to the side and you just slowly burn that off into a wider and wider turn until you're flying straight.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because that's what I feel when I'm in the air and I start doing some steeper banks and I start building that energy. And then I just think to myself, if I'm going to try a wing over, I'm going to build more energy than I've ever experienced. And then I'm thinking, how in the heck do I bleed that energy off once I build it? Because that's what's keeping me from trying it, is because I don't want to make a mistake with all this energy built up.
Learning it could be learning like bad wing overs. I don't want to speak improperly, but like learning bad wing overs is actually not that difficult. Just enter really early and make sure you have outside pressure. Where it gets hard is like there has to be like a point of no return. Like you almost enter a spot where you are just committed to that wing over. And if you try and not do the wing over, it's almost worse than if you just sent into the wing over. And so also...
Wait, can you repeat that, Trevor?
There's like a point with wing overs of no return. Because if you enter in big and then last second you decide not to actually do the wing over and you just burn straight up, you could go really, really up. Or if you kind of half go into the wing over, you could kind of go light while you're sideways, which would be unfun. But also for like baby wing overs are a fairly simple thing. That's actually a good idea. Well, I'll talk about SIVs in just a second. But baby wing overs are easy. Just enter before you reach the bottom. So like there's an arc to a paraglider when you build this energy, because there's all this excess energy and it needs to go somewhere. On a good wing over, you actually exit as you're going up. Like you pass the gate, which is the bottom, and you exit going, or you enter going up, and that carries you up and over the wing. A bad wing over, you exit prior to the gate. And so now if you ever watch people do wing overs, just watch to see when they enter the wing over, because that's going to tell you how well they know how to do wing overs. When you're new, enter before you reach the bottom, because you will be at less risk of going light sideways. If you entered with not enough energy up here, you could go light like right here and then kind of sink, which is unlikely, but it is a possibility. But if you enter before the bottom, then it's just going to build more energy and dive you into the next one.
So start turning before I hit bottom.
Start turning before you hit bottom. Don't use any throttle when you're new. And
Yes,
let me talk
that's
about
another
SIV.
question.
Don't use any throttle when you're new, because throttle is just like adding nitrous. If you can't keep your drag car in a straight line before nitrous, don't add nitrous, right? If you can't keep the car under control without nitrous, don't add nitrous. It's the same thing with wing overs. If you can't handle the wing over without power, do not add power. If
So what
you
you're saying
can-
is I can go into a wing over if I get 2 good ones done, and if I add power going to the next one, I can do a loop. I'm joking. I'm joking.
This is completely unprofessional advice.
No,
Fly
I'm
at
just
your own
joking,
risk.
man.
Disclaimer. But I'll also talk about this. So there was a comment about SIVs.
Yes, and I want to do one.
I think SIVs are marginally beneficial. Like I don't know if SIVs are that beneficial, especially when new. And the reason that I say that is because an SIV can scare you out of flying, or it can cause a fear injury.
And I had that.
Yeah. So when you're new, what I do when pilots are new is I try and manage very meticulously like fear injuries. I try and make sure that when they go fly, like students, when they go fly, that the flight is good, that they are not exhausted, that they are not like for sure going to fall on their face because their legs are sore. If they're sore, if they're tired, if they're exhausted, you're not going to fly. Because one big mistake like that, one face plant, one terrifying SIV run, and you're not necessarily going to want to do it again. You're not necessarily going to want to fly. It's going to change the way that you see things. And so when you're new, aka like under 100 hours, you need to be very, very meticulous and aware of what you're exposing yourself to, because you could scare yourself out of flying. And I've learned that especially to be the case with new pilots. As you progress, then you can go to an SIV. I don't think they're I don't think they're risky enough to not do one, but I just also the thing is I don't know how much value you really get from an SIV when you're new. When you're experienced, sure. When you're new, I don't know how much value you're going to get from it. And again, I could be totally wrong. This is just kind of my experience.
Quick question, Trevor. So as beginners, me and Shane are about the same. As we're learning energy management and starting to get into these, you're recommending keep the throttle off. Don't mess with that. Work on our practice and our emotions. Okay.
Absolutely. And, I'm sure you'd learn quite a bit about wing overs by going to an SIV, but in a paragliding harness, things are very different than a paramotor. Like in a paragliding harness, you're much more reclined, which changes, and also you're much more aerodynamic. So the way that you build energy and the way that you maneuver is very different in a paragliding harness. Like it'll scare you the first time you do wing overs in a paragliding harness compared to a paramotor because they're so much more aerodynamic, especially a pod harness. So you'll go way higher when you exit. You'll build energy way better. I don't know. I think you just need to be aware of the potential of a fear injury by going to an SIV.
And what about the wings too? Because I did talk to Andrew Fuller
And
I
also-
was at Bad Apples, and he said that my wing, I could not use my wing in an SIV because it's a reflex. So if I have to use a different wing, then there we go again. I'm not going to be familiar with that wing, and it might have different flying characteristics and collapse characteristics, correct?
Wait. I totally missed all of that.
Okay. So I talked to Andrew Fuller at Bad Apples when I was new, and we talked about my wing, and it is a reflex wing. And he said that I could not use that in an SIV. I would have to use one of
Correct.
his. So along those lines, if I use a different wing, which I'm not familiar with, it's going to have different stall characteristics and just fly differently than what I'm used to, right?
Right.
Yes, it will, but also the fundamentals are the same. Like, yes, it's going to be different, but you're going to understand what a wing feels like when it stalls. You're going to understand the feeling of it giving, and you're going to understand to recognize that regardless of one wing to another wing. So I would, you will have to use a different wing than a reflex wing when you go through an SIV.
Is the logic behind that because you're making your wing collapse and stuff, and a reflex wing is going to collapse much more violently?
Uh-oh.
And
Did
that's
we
why
lose him?
they
Oh no.
maybe. I'll ask them that question later.
You just scared him off.
Although
Oof,
technically,
we've got-
I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but a reflex wing is only reflex when it's in reflex mode, trimmed out. Wouldn't that be correct, or am I wrong on that?
There he's back.
There he is.
Say it again.
So, Trevor, with Shane's comment, the reason why they don't want you to use reflex wings in an SIV course is because if you're going to make a wing collapse and do different stuff, a reflex is going to do it much more violently. But my thought behind it is it's not reflex until it's in reflex mode, like trimmed out. Is that correct, or do I got that understanding wrong?
Oh my gosh. Well, hang on. I'm all over the place over here, service-wise.
There's a
All
glitch in
over
the
the place.
matrix.
Steve, I have an answer to your question, though.
Oh, hang on.
Maybe I'm back.
No.
Not a super important question. I
Steve?
mean, we can skip it. But
Wait. Sorry.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, it's a simple answer. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's
Yeah.
it's basically that reflex wings don't stall or collapse nearly as well.
Okay.
So you're telling me I need to have more faith in my wing and not worry about collapses.
I like it.
Oh, we can't.
I don't know what you said. I'm sorry.
I said, I'm just saying, so I need to have more faith in my wing because I'm always paranoid of collapses. I've never experienced one that I know of, but man, it can get bumpy up there sometimes. And I don't know. I'm just paranoid of that, but maybe I shouldn't be.
You do need to trust your wing more. Your wing is trustworthy.
Yeah, like you say, I totally trust it, but when it gets bumpy,
I trust them like I trust my women. I'm like, that
Why is
wing's
there-
going to divorce me right now.
That's a whole different story. Women.
I can't hear anything.
hey, fly, baby, fly.
I gotta go, guys. I gotta go.
Trevor, you don't hear anything? Can you hear me?
We can
Yeah,
hear
he's
you.
having issues.
Oh,
He's
having
downloading and pirating a whole bunch of movies.
Hey,
Yeah.
Shane, let me tell you something about SIV because the thing is about what experience you're being exposed, you know? The perspective Trevor has is a good perspective, like instructor, and in the way he built up his career is so great and he's so good. I am agree with him too, you know? But in my self experience was a bad experience that I have an instructor that give me only one flight, and after that flight, I have to figure it out how I can fly myself. Just because I was so good doing ground handling and I did a good fly and everything looked so perfect and I look like the guy with big balls and he let me go by myself. But still, I have fear. I spent 1 year flying and I only achieved 13 flights. Then I knew Andrew Fuller in one flying in Palm Bay 2020. Then after I knew Andrew, I just spent like about 7-8 months studying. If I go to the SIB, I put it here in my head and I beginning to watch so many videos about safety in flight. It's this guy that used to be a test pilot from Ozone Paragliding, Jockey Sanderson, and he said that the best time to do an SIB is when you don't know too much. Let's say 40, 50 hours, because you have so much hungry to learn and then to respect the wind, so the same. Then to have these collapses, when you go to SIB, you know how to react and not to overreact. I was nearly into my wing in the full stall. And I have to tell you something. This is the maneuver that today I love more. I don't have no afraid to do full stall. I can do so many. But now I know my pitch, you know. If I see that wind coming more than 2 o'clock, man, I can put my hands in my butt so fast. I would say I don't wanna...
I could totally see your point, and I could be totally wrong.
No, you could too.
I have just seen too many people go and experience a fear injury, and it's not the end of the world that if you do. It's just one of those things that I like to point out, that there is a counter side, that you don't necessarily have to go to the SIV, and it can, in fact, be a negative, not necessarily a positive. But it could also be a huge positive. So I don't know. I don't have a great opinion on that.
And there's plenty of experienced people I've listened to that say that you can get into that kind of stuff way too early. Like, come on, just wait a while, fly a bit.
You know what it also can do? Okay, what it also could do is it builds a false sense of confidence and a false sense of skill. You become overconfident if you perform well, right? You could end up putting yourself into worse situations if you do that. I'm all for SIVs. I just think you should hit 100 hours. That's where I think you should go to an SIV. After 100 hours, you should consider it. But pre 100 hours, I just think it's a little too new.
Yeah. I always thought it was funny, like, if you ever watched live shows from past years, like, you'd get somebody on with 10, 20 hours. People are like, when are you taking your SIV? I'm like, this guy just started. Why is that
like
the
scaring it, or if flying is still like nerve-wracking for you?
Yeah.
Then maybe it's too new.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go fall out of the sky. I mean, it's still scary just to fly. I mean, that's my thought on those things. And there was a question asked about reflex. Can you trim a reflex in to react like a PG wing? Technically, reflex wings are always PG, or technically, reflex wings are always reflexed, even trimmed in.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be mistaken, but I believe that one of the bigger differences between a traditional airfoil or classic airfoil and a reflex profile is how much pressure is inside of the wing. Reflex wings are more pressurized. They have higher pressure inside versus.
So you said even
traditional
trimmed
airfoil.
in, it's still a reflex profile.
There's still reflex to it.
Okay.
It's still technically reflex. It's going to behave very similarly to a classic or traditional airfoil. I refer to it as a traditional airfoil. It's going to behave very similarly, trimmed all the way in, but it's still a reflex profile.
Okay. Clears it up for me.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Very
we got
good.
a couple of these
I think
guys.
we had an adult conversation. No.
So Mad Slopers.
Okay. I gotta go, guys. I
Okay.
appreciate
Hey,
it.
thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
Absolutely. See ya.
See you later. All right. Well, that was
Oh,
cool. Getting Trevor back on here again.
yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Hey, Yordankes.
Hey, you know what? I always respect the opinion of everybody because I grow in this sport because I like it. I have to do my research online. And then it's like you after don't trust nobody. After your instructor, then they do it so bad with you. You don't trust nobody that coming to talk to you stuff. Then it's like everybody know what they do. And everybody want dollars in the end. Then that's why I figured out my way just step by step. And I go straight to what I need to go. And everybody build up in different way, you know. Yeah, if I have Trevor, like instructor or myself, I'm sure I don't need to do no SIV, no nothing. And you know, you're good because you have somebody that give you right tips how to do it and blah, 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 you know. But outside of that, I've been flying now for 4 years. I didn't have no accidents. Like anybody else, yeah, you always have a broken props and things like that. I learning about my equipment. I changed my engine. I used to have an Aron 80. I put in a 185 on my Adventure Pluma. They don't give you nothing online, like you can do the switch on it. I learned how to do it by myself, looking out for little details online. You know, you're growing and growing and growing. And always I respect the way I fly. Because that's the only things can keep me alive, you know?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
But SIV gives me too much to myself. At least I know when she collapses to one side or another, just depends how much altitude you have. You can go to either side. You can go to the side, it's collapsed, or you can go straight and fly, like you don't do it 180-degree turn and you do it only 90-degree turn. Just depends, but just depend about altitude. The collapse, it be less than 30%, it's nothing. It's like nothing. You don't even feel it too hard, you know?
See, Shane, you just need to collapse the crap out of your wing.
I haven't even done big ears yet. Because there's so much
grab
pressure.
one front A and just be like, ah.
I do have a reserve.
You got to do what's right for you.
But let me tell you something. Even I did a SIB, and I've been twice now in SIB with Andrew. I've been there twice. For the second time I did it my second SIV. I did my full stall by myself, and all was perfect. Great. I know how to manage now my energy of the wind. When to pull more, because sometimes you have to pull super hard, but sometimes you have to do it so flexible. The wing is like a lady, you know. You have to treat them with character, but at the same time you need to be soft. Then that's how you have to manage the wind. It's like you play with pressure.
Well, Steve's in trouble then. Oh.
Yeah, I'm in big trouble. I'm dying my next flight.
Hey, fly baby. So I do experience a collapse. The correct recovery for a collapse is to pull brake on the side that the collapse is in to reinflate the wing, correct?
You can do it just a little bit. It's so small, but you don't have to pull hard or nothing. You have to keep pressure in the side that is inflated.
Okay.
You know, and you have to do a little bit of pressure hard. It's like hard pressure, not complete down, but you have to keep pressure there hard and try to keep air just going the other way.
If that happens, hopefully it doesn't.
And those are paragliding habits. Like the free flight people always keep a little bit of pressure, because if a wing goes slack, your hand goes down.
But you
go
you
down
know
with the slack.
I learned that in Spain, because I spent 3 months in Spain. I did paragliding in Spain. I didn't knew the why. And then there I just get the detail. And nobody explained that. And the point is, always when you do paragliding and you just always get into the turbulence, you have to keep a little bit pressure just about your ears, because what happens is if the wind tries to go forward, you don't have no time to catch it. Then we don't have a problem with the motor, because we always swinging in front of the wind. Then we keeping pressure in the wind, because it's always air coming, and it's difficult for we have the frontal.
Kevin, in your response to let the wing fly, that means hands up, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's how I was taught also, is if you have anything going wrong, hands up. That's embedded in my head. Hands up.
Yep.
So
And a lot of times as paramotor people, we just overthink it, because, you know, everybody's like obsessed with new people and SIVs and whatnot. We're flying in calm conditions. We're not in paragliding big air conditions.
No.
I've been in what I thought was rough air that was giving me a pucker factor. I could have left my hands up the whole time. I would never have had to catch a surge. Like, there was times I was like, oh, I better catch that. But my wing wasn't going above 1 o'clock. Like, it's just when it's a new activity, we're like, oh, when it's really not a big deal. It's just that thing's going to fly. You pick your good weather. And even if it's a little gusty out, blowing up to 12 or whatever, it's still a non-issue. It may make you uncomfortable because of turbulence. You're on a pendulum, but at the end of the day, we're not in that big boy air.
Right.
Jay, do I have time for one more quick story along the lines of airspeed is your friend?
You bet, but that's going to cost you $20.
$20 is $20. All right.
$20 is $20.
And this goes with Travis had a question earlier, or he wanted me to elaborate on my flight that I had in Bad Apples where I got caught in a storm. So before this happened, Steve and I were out kiting in the field, and I was doing it in front of Jade's area there where Aviator was at, and Ross Gasaway came out and worked with me for probably an hour, giving me pointers. And he said, and one thing that stuck with me is he said, if you get into some really bad air, let your trimmers out so the wing can build speed and cut through it. So I remembered that. So we went flying and we got caught in a thunderstorm. We were going to go on a cross country with the guys from Atlanta that I was talking about earlier. So a couple of guys, I think, turned away and went back and landed. But I'm like, well, the storm's off to the north and I'm heading to the south, so we're going to be okay. So as we flew, the clouds got darker and darker, and it got really bumpy. So, and Ross's advice, I let my trimmers all the way out. But man, I'll tell you what, I really got rocked. And there's just the bumps were, I don't know, just 10 times what they normally would be trimmed in. So, I tried to stay fast, and I just got scared, and I ended up going trims all the way in and just butt puckering up and flying through it. And so was that the right thing to do or not? I don't know. But I did not like the feeling trimmed out of how pronounced and sharp the bumps became with that extra speed.
Right.
So
part of it, so someone told me an analogy the other day is when you're kind of in that mode, it's almost like when you're driving a car and you got some really good shocks and everything's smooth compared to when you got some really stiff shocks and you hit a bump. It's like, it's just a little bit more jarring. It's not like it's bad and it's dangerous. It's just sharper. It's just a sharper bump rather than being able to go blue, over those.
I got you.
So it's probably just a different feeling.
Yeah. I got you, Trevor. It trims in. I felt super safe, and that's my comfort zone. If anything bad gets to happen, getting horrible air, I feel safe trimmed in, and the bumps are not as pronounced for sure. So
Trevor says trims in. I thought I read, I'm not saying like this is my opinion or whatever, I'm inexperienced, but that if you're in turbulence, heavy ones, I've heard a lot of people say trim out. So I'd be interested in getting some feedback on that, because it's not like I've got the definitive answer to it.
Yeah, I get a lot of advice that's opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm just,
there's a lot of differences of opinion, and I think the discourse overall is getting better. We're better about like, hey, I'm not quite sure about my opinion, but this is what I know. What do you think? And we collaborate a little bit more to find out who it is. And then everybody's like, oh, hey, go listen to Chris Santa Croce, or,
I guess by at the end of the day, no matter what type of problem I get myself into in the air, one thing that Kyle always stressed, and I always revert back to it, is no matter what happens, just fly the wing. And that's exactly what I try to do. And I think about that when I get into trouble, if I get into trouble. So
yeah, just fly the machine and don't worry about anything else.
And that's exactly what I did when we got caught in that storm. Back to that, we tried to fly around the rain. We got caught in some rain and got out of the rain. And I saw the lead guy went down and landed at that quarry that was there. So I flew around for a half hour doing circling, thinking something was wrong. And, because I was new and didn't know any better. And I'm finally get to the point where I can't go back to Bad Apples because all I saw was a white wall of water. So I'm like, well, I'm going to have to land, or I'm going to be forced to land because I'm going to run out of gas. So when I landed, I walked up. I'm like, hey, is everything all right? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I wasn't flying in that crap. He goes, that was horrible. So I kind of laughed because I was dumb and didn't know any better what bad air is. And I just tried to fly through it and went back to Kyle's thing, just fly the wing. And that's what I did. Even maybe it was dangerous, maybe it wasn't, but it was a great learning experience no matter what. So
Kevin's got a good one here. Trims in, more prone to collapse, but opens faster. Trims out, collapse resistance, but more dynamic when you take a collapse.
Yeah, and as heavy as I am on my wing, I'd sure hate to take one trimmed out, I think.
Yeah, and Trevor says trim in, or not both at the same time, but trim in or full bar. Those are the safest two configurations.
And I have yet to fly with a speed bar. And actually, I ripped the pulleys out of my harness through those.
How'd you do that?
Those
butt landing.
Butt landings. So my harness is tied into the frame on the bottom, and it's tied in with those pulleys. And I ripped them out. So I had them sewn back in once, and the very next flight, I butt landed and ripped them out again. So I just end up zip tying my bottom of my harness to the frame, and it's been that way ever since. And honestly, my wing's so fast, I don't know if I even want to mess around with speed bar. I think it's just one more thing that I can screw up and to go wrong. But,
yeah, I don't have a interest in speed bar yet myself, just because I'm not like I want to feel like 40-50 miles an hour near the ground. Like when I want to play near the ground, I want to play near the ground and like feel good about what I'm doing. I'm not a speed freak yet. But it is funny with like how much you and I struggle with landings, just like, butt drag and stuff like that. When you first get into this and you're considering frames, like what's going to break, what's going to hold up and stuff. I thought the frame I fly was one of the weaker ones, and it really doesn't matter at the end. Like they all handle well. Like our crash landings aren't really that big of a deal unless you're trying to freaking flare at 50 feet.
I don't want to jinx myself, but I will say every flight I had in 2022, every landing was absolutely perfect on my feet, never an issue. So whatever I went through that first year, well, it's only had 13 flights anyway. Whatever was going on there, everything in 22 was perfect. On my feet, controlled. I never had an issue landing. Sometimes it was a little fast. I might have been a little downwind or crosswind, but I was able to stick them, and it's just been a joy. I love landing now. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh yeah, it's so satisfying.
It
Like
is.
even today, I'm just like I could land on my feet 20 times in a row, and if I do it my 21st time, I'm like, I have the power. I've got. Hey, people are demanding spinning wheel. You want to do that?
Yeah, that was me.
That is you?
I'm demanding it.
Oh, that is you.
Oh.
Oh, my Atlanta. This is why I'm single.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go for 2 more just want to fly stickers.
Did we give away a Trevor shirt already?
Oh, no, we forgot.
And Trevor, I'm going to call you, buddy. Next couple days or something. I want to
I'm gonna call
do
him
that chat
too.
we talked about.
I want to do some free flight.
Trevor, if you're still in here, do we have a shirt spinny wheel free?
Paramount.
Ooh, yeah.
Linda.
Hey, Steve, you love that. Linda, Paramount.
Yeah.
Let's see. I gotta get Mad
Linda.
Sloper in there. Did I miss anybody else? Lift paramotor.
Shane, Trevor says call anytime.
You want to do one more, Jade?
Yep, do one more.
Free
Just one fly
flight
sticker.
experience. Oh my goodness.
Super greasy.
Yordankes, if you can stick around in the after show for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I see some names in here twice. Who did that?
Yeah, your damn keys, man. Where you leave your keys? Where are your damn keys?
Oh man, I just typed in lift paramotor too.
Brother,
Just typed it in.
where are your damn keys? Uh-huh.
Oh, low.
Or is it JP?
Left paramotor.
Lift Paramotor, if you can send me your address in Facebook Messenger, please. Okay, Trevor said that he will send out a shirt tomorrow, so we can do one more, and this will be for Trevor's shirt.
All right.
Thank you,
Spin
Trevor.
this wheel is brought to you by
Go, go,
Backcountry
go.
PPG. Whether you need beginner training or intermediate training, Trevor's there to take you fly camping and get you drunk.
And who is the one spinning in the middle of the wheel?
That's me.
Oh,
I'm
that's
the one that wears the leggings. Yeah, that's me.
Oh. You want to look like Leah Catulo or what?
Duck spits, can I get it?
Leah Catullo stole that outfit from me.
Hey, congrats, Nick. Nick, are you still in here? Let Trevor and I know what size you are, so
Doc Spin PPG.
or Gen C, if you know what size shirt he wears, t-shirt, we can get Trevor to send that shirt out right away.
Hey, Eddie, you good?
Yeah. Hey, I got a quick Nick story for you. How I met Nick. We were down at Bad Apples, and we had a windstorm come through during the night. So I woke up the next morning, and here's one of those pop-up tents. It was like one flip away from all that metal from the legs going into my pickup. So I got really lucky there, and I could see it was the guys parked in front of me who I didn't know at the time. So I don't know what them guys were doing the night before, but they didn't get up till about 12:30 in the afternoon. And here comes Nick strolling out of the thing, and we met each other. But it was hilarious. But man, them guys can sleep. I'll tell you that. But that was pretty neat. But I got lucky on that because I would have been pissed if that would have scratched the old truck up. So, but yeah, that was fun and lucky.
All right. Any more questions for Shane? If you guys want, I will put the invite in. We can hang out afterwards where it's not live. If you guys want to say hi to Shane or Yordankes or any of us, just for a little bit, that'd be
Or if you
awesome.
want to see us in the buff. Yeah.
No,
You
no,
don't want
no,
to see me in the buff.
no, no. But Shane, you got anything else?
I think I've blabbered enough, I guess. All my questions got answered, so I just need to get in the air and start working on those wingovers.
Yep.
I
Hey,
just
I,
That
have
was
to-
kind of fun tonight because, like, you and I are both beginners, and have someone like Trevor pop on, and then we ask like questions that we're confused about, and then you get better answers and stuff. That was pretty fun tonight. I liked it.
Absolutely.
Shane, I even started my wingovers, so it's like if
Did you
I can
really?
do it- yeah, and I didn't think
Oh,
I would be
man.
doing anything like that. So
That's a bunch of crap. You can't beat me at it. I better
I
get
like
moving.
He's already done big ears.
Most of the time, the free flying pilots, they doing with tandem just to burn altitude, because when they have so much thermal situation, there is so much racing air, they don't be able to coming down. They have to do big ears or to do it out little wing over.
I got a bad habit of ditching altitude with doing spirals, but now granted, they're not very steep spirals, but I do build a little energy, and I know the effects of what can happen. So I try not to go too deep into doing them, but I love doing about 8 or 10 circles coming down. But
Hey, I can
know
Y'all are
oscillate.
amateurs. I just cut away.
I can oscillate.
Yeah, me too. I can oscillate.
the one thing that scares me is their swoops. I don't get that. How they
That's
can-
my new way of landing. I love to come in off a turn building energy. It's I've started doing that a lot lately, and I love it.
Do you ever come in flapping, Shane, where you like come in flap and then
No.
let it dive? No, you don't do that.
Oh,
either?
I know what you're talking about, but no, I got power lines at my LZ, and I try not to fly over them. So I like
Okay.
to fly parallel with them and then make my turn and come in, depending on which way the winds are coming from. So I love doing that. It's a lot of fun. So,
All right. Well, we're gonna say goodnight, but make sure you guys tune in next week. We got another great guy coming on, and I think you might like him also, like our guest tonight. Some guy named Daniello. Ooh.
Oh, I'm gonna say it shit.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping that I just didn't jinx, because it always seems like every time I say who's going to be on, something comes up and we
That's gonna be a disaster. Him and I are just gonna flirt the entire time,
oh
like
stop.
badly. It's gonna be so bad.
I will
We're
make sure
gonna,
I
we're
have
gonna
the mute
duct tape
button.
your mouth.
Oh, one more quick question I got to get off.
Yeah.
I've never landed full trims out. Should I try doing that with all that speed and energy? And is it safe to do that with a reflex wing?
I mean, you can. You just got to bleed out more stuff
Eric
before you
says you're
kill
going
it.
to come in fast and it is safe.
Okay, because I didn't know about the
Yeah,
collapse thing.
flare.
And
Trevor Steele says no. You probably shouldn't. I've known guys that have busted their trimmers up in the air that had to come in full in, and they were able to do it.
You will have
I
more.
wouldn't do it.
You will have more flare authority.
okay, I always come in fully trimmed in, just
What?
so everybody knows. That's what I've always done. I've never. What I feel when I'm flying my wing and I trim out, my brakes are very, very heavy. They're heavy trimmed in, but when I'm trimmed out, you can almost do chin ups with the brake handles. It's so much pressure.
You should try a trim neutral because then you'd get a little bit more authority. You just need to level out more. And then plunk it.
According to my manual, trim neutral is all the way in and on my wing.
Oh, okay.
So
What wing you have?
it's a Flow Cosmos Power.
Because I always come in trim neutral, even if it's like no wind. It
Is
seems
that
to
a
work out.
beginner wing, Shane?
It says no,
No.
but that's all I've known. So I don't
It's a
know.
wing for the cool people.
What is the name of the wing?
It's a Flow Cosmos Power.
Oh, Flow Cosmo Power.
Okay.
It's like one of those Walmart wings you
That's
just
a-
pick up for $200.
That's the crappy part, though. Everybody I talk to that gives advice, nobody's flown this wing, other than a couple guys that I've met that have the wing. But as far as everybody else, other than like Kyle, nobody has any experience with them. So it really sucks for me to talk to people about flying that wing and what I can do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, main thing is if you can find the manual, go online and see if you can read up on it.
I don't trust everything I read.
Especially since it's a reflex wing.
Yeah. But okay, thank
Right.
you.
Yeah. So whoever won some stuff tonight, Ray Morgan, if you can find me on Facebook at Jade Lear, send me your address, your information, and I can get that out. And Lift Paramotor also. And Linda, I know your address. I'll get yours out to you. You always win. So,
Gotcha, Trevor.
Yep. And Trevor says message them. So if you guys have any information or any questions, hit Trevor up on Facebook or something, and also watch his most recent video, I believe, with the wing claps that he talks about. So, and
Yeah,
thank
it was
you.
really cool.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being on here tonight, Trevor.
Thanks for
and
having me
Ricky.
on. It was fun.
And Shane, definitely. Yes, it was a good night for all
Very
of
good.
us. We learned a lot from each other.
Yes.
So,
I love it.
all right, Shane, where can we find you on social media?
I'm not much of a social media, so I post a few things, but not much. My
Facebook?
YouTube is just my name.
Okay.
Facebook, I don't post anything on other than like paramotor groups and stuff like that.
You were just in Facebook jail, though.
I don't understand why. I didn't do anything.
Hmm.
So
See, that's your problem. You need to do some stuff. Start some shit. Oh, sorry.
Yordankes, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me Fly PG in TikTok, the same name, in Instagram, the same name, and in YouTube, the same name. In Facebook, Yordankes Garcia.
Okay.
Yep.
Fly, baby, fly.
Fly, baby, fly.
I'll be watching your videos tonight, Fly Baby. I'm a couple behind, so
Man, flying saved my life. I used to be a motorcycle rider, and then I picked myself in a motorcycle because somebody else.
yeah, you get hurt on the motorcycles. I gave them up too.
Yep.
All right. If you guys want to stick around and meet these guys, you're more than welcome. Come drop in, but sign in using Google Chrome or Foxfire or Firefox when you click on that link. So again, till next time, and
Don't say it.
If we don't see you on there, we'll see you in there.
good night, everybody. See you next week.
Nothing is untrue. Nothing but love. It's all emotions of everything we are, what we belong to, how we reach our destiny.